Okay. Fantastic. Tim, I am super stoked. I was taking a look before we jumped on to like what you're doing on Instagram, on social media. I saw a lot of big names like Pedro Pascal follows your page, Will I Am. You've got Casey Neistat making
Mhm.
videos about riding the bike, which makes a lot of sense. So
Right.
I think that's a great place to start off is a lot of people aim to become a cultural phenomenon, and you sort of just went straight into the zeitgeist with a product that was designed for culture. Can you talk
Mhm.
to me about sort of like where bikes, motorcycles, and things of that nature sort of live for you? I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. So the culturally, and I mean, just in my perspective, bikes are a great transportation device. They get you to and from a lot faster than cars. And right now, you can see around the world that bikes and motorcycles and mopeds are one of the number one forms of transportation. They it's because they can fit in they can fit in places that cars can't fit, and you can put a lot more of them, right? So it's more affordable for most people, and just the usability of them is it's great, right? I think the biggest thing is that you can get places a lot faster, and you can avoid traffic, and then there's just also a lot more fun, right, than a car, right? They're a lot more fun to ride, and then customization wise, you can kind of make it make it your own very easily. um so I think those are some of the big pluses of bikes in general.
I'd like to, if we can, go towards like how personal this might be for you. Where does this project live for you? Do you have a fond memory of like bikes in your life early on? Or is this something that you grew to love during your work with Bird, Scoot, and now here with Onyx?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so for me, I've always been into vehicles since I was a kid. As far as I can remember, I was into old Volkswagen Bugs, and when I was a kid, I really thought that car looked really cool, and I also was into bikes and mopeds, and I lived in an area where it was maybe a little bit more rural. It was kind of off, out of the city. So growing up in the '80s, I was able to, not only ride my BMX around, and build jumps and things like that, build BMX jumps, and but I was also able to, ride mopeds around or dirt bikes or things like that, and it was totally okay in that neighborhood because it wasn't in the inner city. And so I've always just it was always the way that I would get pretty far out and explore as a kid. um the customization of it kind of came a little bit later when I was out of college and had a little bit more money to be able to customize these things. So I didn't quite look at it the same when I was a kid from a customization standpoint. I was looking at it more as just getting me around, like getting me to where I needed to go faster and farther, right? I was then walking, right? So I looked at it as just a means of transportation. And then uh, when I was older, I think that nostalgia of remembering that as a kid, was strong for me, but it was also remembering, oh, these vehicles aren't that fast and they're kind of slow, and I looked into seeing if I could make them faster and sort of customizing them, and that's how it evolved into the product that we have today. Because I was definitely thinking about, you know, oh, I really miss these vehicles, but also they weren't really modern in today's sense. They're a little slow and not as powerful as they should be. Competing with other vehicles on the road.
I think there's something interesting being shared here, and I want to dive into the 80 volt, the RCR 80 volt. But before we get there, I'm getting the sense that you're a tinkerer, someone who
Mhm.
likes to break things apart, find out how they work. Is this accurate?
Definitely. One of the things when I was a kid, my dad would always get mad at me for taking apart everything, because I was really interested in figuring out what was inside. So I would take apart his radios or his TV or like VCR, like just stuff that obviously like there's no reason for you to be taking it apart, but I was very interested in seeing what was inside, and I probably learned a lot from that. But obviously, I mean, obviously, learned that it wasn't it wasn't cool to do that to new things. So my dad would always give me maybe something after he kind of learned that I was interested in that. That he would give me things that were broken that I could take apart. But this is when I was really young. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because he was, you know, he would build things like craft things. He was kind of an artist himself, and
Oh.
um, so I, you know, I knew where his tools were, right? Like I could like go when he wasn't home, I'd go into his toolbox and then start taking things apart.
So
Yeah,
this is really cool. So not only did you have a great example of like a builder, designer, like even early on, but you were also encouraged to tinker with things. And now here you are with the 80 volt. Like, you know, I was looking on social media. I thought it was really cool to see like how this has taken on it a life of its own as a movement. Like the
yeah,
the 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 videos and the clips that I've seen, they really do show there's an engagement with what you're doing. Would the young you, the young Tim, be in
right.
love with the product you have today?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we're doing does go back to, you know, the freedom that you would have as a kid with a bike or, you know, some like little go-kart or something like that, um, and you know, and hanging out with your friends. It kind of reminds me of, you know, the little gang of Goonies, or,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, or modern day would be, you know, Stranger Things, right? And just hanging out with a bunch of friends and, you know, or like a little skate crew or something like that where
I was gonna say, man, I was a skater, so
yeah, yeah, exactly, right?
your
And that
tagline,
whole
"Get
yeah,
lost." I
yeah, to get
I know
lost.
exactly what you're saying with that because we used to just be out there. I don't know where we were,
Right.
couldn't tell you how we got there, but we were out there.
Yeah, the actually, that's the original Get Lost is the original tagline. I didn't think it was originally, I didn't, use it right away. We used mopeds are back, but to be a little bit, you know, less
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
abrasive, but get lost has always been in the background, and it's really what it means is getting out there, you know, by yourself or with your friends and just explore. And the Onyx and the Onyx is one of the best vehicles to do that right now, where you can just get out and explore anywhere, right, in your city or off road a little bit. It's a great vehicle to do that with, and it just yeah, it brings me back to being with your friends and exploring with, you know, skateboards or bikes or something like that, where you're just out in the world, just discovering new things. Yeah.
Now, the tech stack that goes into it, if I understood correctly in my notes and things that you shared with me, it even has navigation in it, like CarPlay and Android. What's
Android
the
Auto,
yeah,
Android
Android
Auto.
Auto. There you go. Sorry, you
Yeah,
can tell I'm an iPhone guy.
yeah.
And for me, that's insane because is it running like Linux? Is it how, what is running under the hood there?
So so it's I mean, it's essentially your kind of traditional electric vehicle where it's got a battery and a speed controller and the electric motor and the wiring harness and a little bit of the computer processing, very basic in it. But the screen um, is almost like a cell phone, right? It mirrors your phone. So your phone does do a lot of the processing power, but
Oh,
it's more about kind of casting your phone
yeah,
to the screen, but it doesn't just do like just your phone. It does, you know, it kind of curates everything, which is CarPlay or Android Auto, so that it gives you the apps that you would need when you're, you know, when you're riding, right? Because obviously you don't want people playing games or
yeah,
anything like that
yeah. No
when they're
YouTube while you're riding out.
right, right. Yeah. So um yeah, so it has the navigation and it gives you audio, so you can listen to music or you can take phone calls. So I mean, now there's really, you know, no excuse for missing a phone call while you're riding. But but at the same time, I mean, what I love it because I can listen to my music and ride. Someone can call me and I can keep riding. Or what I've been using it a lot for is the navigation, right? Because you know, it helps that idea of exploring and finding new things. And the map, you know, great example is I had a big group ride where it was almost 100 people, and I actually didn't really know the area quite well, and I kind of knew where I wanted to go, but because the map was right there on the screen, I was able to zoom in while I was riding, pitching the zoom, and then kind of finding the route. And then at the end of the ride, everybody was like, "Wow, that was the most amazing ride ever!" Like, and I was like, "Well, if I didn't have this screen, I honestly don't think it would have been that great." But I was able to help map everybody through pretty awesome, route down in, down by San Pedro, kind of Rancho Palos
Yeah,
Verdes,
yeah, yeah.
up in the hills
I'm
there.
familiar. I'm right down here in El Segundo, so I know
Oh
Palos
yeah,
Verdes very well. Yeah, oh, it's a beautiful area.
it's
You
amazing.
know, I think that's what makes it so unique. As I'm listening to you, is I've seen a lot of EVs. You know, like bikes in particular. There's even a shop somewhere down here, but I don't think I recall ever seeing a screen on any of them. That might be, and maybe you know your competitors better than I would, but that may be a unique proposition there. But what else for you do you think makes the Onyx stand apart from other options?
Right. I mean, a lot of bikes, I would say a lot of bikes do have little screens and they give you a speedo, which ours does, and tells
Right.
you everything. But our bike goes a little step further and gives you the navigation and all those other features. But the I mean, the biggest thing is we we have a pretty high voltage, right? Which is 80 volts nominal. Not very many bikes are that high in voltage.
Yeah.
Most are kind of still getting into what they call the 72 volt. But even I would say even below that, the majority of bikes are still in the 48 volts and maybe up to 60 volts. So our bike has a lot more torque and power. Um, it's it's also just kind of a step above in the sense of build quality, and size and comfort compared to these other bikes, right? These other bikes are just lower powered, and you really can't get out of the way of other vehicles on the road, whereas ours can. Ours has the power to keep up with traffic and in my opinion, keep you safer because you don't want these slower bikes. What happens is you end up having to ride on the side of the road and then you just have hundreds of cars passing you within minutes, right? Whereas we're we're essentially going past all those cars or riding with a car kind of in front of it. So you're really only dealing with a few cars on the road whenever you're riding, as opposed to hundreds.
That's a
And
great point for risk. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of fun, and uh, I just w- we've we've essentially added new wheels and a better, more powerful motor. And then our bike is also on a CAN bus system, which is all the components talk to each other. So if there's any sort of issue with one of the parts, it will let the user know.
I was
And
just about
so
to say.
yeah, and what it
Um,
is, it's kind of like a more advanced, like a car where if you get the little light, you can plug something into it and figure out what it is. Our bike will tell you if there's any issues or anything like that. So
one
it's
thing
great.
I was
Noticing.
One thing I was really excited about, I'm sorry, I was just genuinely excited about
Yeah.
it when I was looking online, is it seemed to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like some of the videos and things of that nature were encouraging, like, here's how you do repairs. Here's how, like, it's
Mhm.
very user friendly in that way where maintenance is like possible even by the user. Is this accurate?
That's correct, and so there the whole bike is very easily repairable, and it's not locked down like a lot of bikes are. It's more
Yeah.
open source, and so we encourage customizations, and we make it possible. So all the panels and everything are removable, so you could change the colors really easily, um, which you can't do that on most bikes. It's just painted one color, and you have to choose that color. All the colors on our bikes are all removable and then you could replace them. And then also we're now also offering firmware updates and ways to update the vehicle. So if we make an update, we can send it out to the customer, and it could be as fun as just changing the screen for, let's say, the holidays. I want to make a new cool little screen speedometer that people can download and they can update it. Or if we make some performance upgrades or anything like that, we can they can download it and just upload it to their bike. That that is actually pretty unheard of in most bikes. Being able to, update the bike and continue to make it better as they own it. Yeah.
Now, we mentioned early on in the conversation some of the interesting people who are obviously engaging with your company, the ethos, and the product. Have
Mhm.
you considered what kind of brands, like, you're wearing the Ray-Bans? Is there a vision in the future of like combining tech? Have you given that any thought? Or are you really hyper focused right now on just getting this right?
Well, I mean, as far as combining tech right now, I mean, the big players in the motorcycle space and the moped space would be Senna and Cardo, which are headsets that connect to your helmet, and that allows you to what they call a group mesh. It's kind of a communication mesh where you can just be on one channel, almost like walkie-talkies, but
Oh,
it's more advanced than that, and you can communicate amongst 20, 30 riders in a group. So when you're all out on a ride, you'll be on your own specific channel, and it's more high quality than a walkie-talkie, and it doesn't really sound crazy because everyone could kind of be talking, but it sounds like you're all in the same room while you're riding, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. So it feels very clear, and it's a very great way to communicate. Our bike works with that system, and that was actually the whole idea from the beginning, was to make sure our bike is compatible with these group rides that people are going on, so they can communicate and get the audio, and also get the audio from, other things like music and maps. And getting that all integrated was a bit of a challenge, but that that was sort of our first step into it. So I think in the future, I would say, really focusing on the community and the communication in those rides, and when people are out riding, and how they communicate and how it works with the bike. So how the bike sort of helps that whole system work. Because I'll give you a great example. If you're riding with a bunch of people and you have your maps on your phone, and you're also kind of on this system with everyone talking, it won't really work very well unless you have, let's say, Android Auto or CarPlay up on your screen, which you can't just do natively on your phone. You have to have the device to do that. And then that way you can get directions while people are also having a conversation. It sounds like maybe it would be kind of crazy, but it actually works really well. So when people are talking, and then somehow, like, the instructions to make a turn, if you're the group leader, it will quiet everyone down, and you can hear the instructions
that's pretty
clearly.
cool.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, one theme that I love about our conversation so far is, and I don't know if this was, I mean, it sounded like it was intentional, but living in Los Angeles, if you're not from LA, you quickly come to realize how much personal space and alone time you'll end up having
right.
if you're not actively trying to socialize. Now, you mentioned, you grew up in a different part of town, a different place where it was rural. Was that your experience coming here, and how do you
Well,
see that now?
yeah, so I grew up just outside of San Francisco, right? So I moved to Los Angeles in 2019. Um, I didn't really know much about LA. I knew more, obviously, about San Francisco and the Bay Area, and I really love the Bay Area and San Francisco for being so lush, and the
Yeah.
community and everything that when I grew up with, the communities in San Francisco were amazing. I think that the artist community and the types of people that I was really, vibing with, had moved, and a lot of them actually moved to Los Angeles and Austin, Texas, and maybe Oakland, which is
Yeah.
kind of outside of, or Portland, right? So some other great cities. And when I moved down here, it felt like sort of this extension of San Francisco, but there was also just, it's strange to say, but I feel like there's more freedom here than there is in Northern California. Northern California actually feels pretty locked down in the sense of what they allow, what the governments and the cities and things allow you to do there.
Right.
Whereas LA and greater LA, they have a lot of open space and a lot of places you can just go. Like you said, if you want to be by yourself, you could just go off into the mountains and explore, and no one's going to tell you you can't go there. But in Northern California, everything's locked down. Like you can't go into the mountains without it.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of places are just gated off, the private property, or
Yeah.
there's a lot of rules around it. Whereas here, people have a lot of really cool adventure type vehicles, and you can just go anywhere. I would say that's very limited in Northern California, unless you get really, really far out into the Sierras or something, right? But
I mean,
even then, it's just a lot of the property up there is private property.
one thing that's certainly true about what you're doing is it's guaranteed to have community and other
Mm.
people
Right.
involved. And I really underestimated. I mean, I didn't know how big the ride community was. It's a big community, whether it's bikes or motorcycles themselves. And now this is somewhere in between. I noticed it had the bicycle pedals. Does that mean it works even if it runs out of electricity?
Yeah, so the reason behind the pedals, and a lot of people ask this, is it's a moped by nature, and mopeds in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were very, very popular. And the main reason why is it was more of a lower powered vehicle because technology wasn't that great back then to make something that small. Or it's not that small, but it's in between a bike and a motorcycle. I think it's
Yeah,
actually the perfect size for a city because you can take it so many places very easily. It's not too big and it's not too small that it feels weird, right? It fits a lot of different sizes. And so the pedals were something that, they added originally to at least help start the vehicle. Or if, let's say, you ran out of fuel, you could pedal it a little bit, or you needed a little bit more energy to get up a very steep hill. And living in San Francisco, I
yeah,
really liked the gas powered moped because of all those reasons. I could easily park it on the sidewalk, which was legal. You can't do that with a motorcycle. I could bring it inside to my office, kind of to make it safe. Um, and the pedals essentially, classified it as a moped, but did give you that added benefit. When I applied those to the ONYX, it gave you all those benefits of what I'm talking about, but you can also pedal it from a start at a stop sign and help, reduce using the battery energy a little bit. Because that's really where you use most of the energy is from a stop. So you can pedal it a little bit there. If you do happen to run out of energy, maybe you pushed it just to like you're about a mile away from your house, you can pedal it. And I mean, it's not the main way of operating the vehicle, but it is definitely beneficial to have. Um, and it also helps you be able to ride, let's say in like Griffith Park or something like that. They
yeah.
have a lot of cool like trails. You can't go on the hiking trails, but they have some pretty cool roads that aren't you're not allowed to go on there unless you have like an electric bike or a bicycle. And if a ranger sees the bike, they don't really say much other than, oh, just stay off the hiking trails, because they see it has pedals. And as long as you're not making a ruckus, it's a great bike, and nobody bothers you. And I think that it gives you that it has a personality that people
It
just love it.
does.
They look at it and they say, "Oh wow, that's great." It's not aggressive or
It makes a
anything. It doesn't look.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and let's dive a little deeper into your design background because we sort of alluded to it a little bit, but
Mhm.
I don't think we went into like what that was like, and I'm wondering if you're open to that because now
Sure.
that we're touching on a specific design choice, just like where does your inspiration come from? Because I saw a shirt on social media that was essentially resembling the Akira movie poster, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it was, and I was like, that's a cool shirt. I want to grab an Onyx shirt just like that. Actually, if you have it in black,
yeah.
let me know. But let's dive into that because I'm assuming that was a choice you made with the shirt as well.
Um, well, I, the bike innately comes from the 70s and 80s, right? And my childhood was mostly in the 80s, and the movies and the animations and everything around that really actually does inspire the entire brand and the vehicle. It so the overall aesthetic and look is going to have a little bit of the retro vintage feel, but with modern touches that to make it obviously feel like a modern vehicle. So I'm pulling a lot of like what I kind of say like Easter eggs and things from movies that and stuff that I was into when I was a kid, and really putting it into the look and feel of the bike. It's it's a minimal kind of retro futuristic looking vehicle. And one of the things that I really like about it is it's a vehicle that people will they're always going to cherish. It's sort of this timeless look and feel that, much like a furniture piece, when you buy furniture, like let's say it's good furniture, right? Like, I mean, IKEA furniture can last a little last long, but not
You can
very
hand
long,
this down through
right?
generations. Yeah.
But yeah, but consumer electronics, which I've done a lot of consumer electronic design for LG and Samsung and HP and all these brands, right? Those products don't really have a long life. People buy them, maybe a couple years later, they just throw it away and they replace it and they get the next best thing. And with this bike, it's if someone, loves it for a while and they feel like, hey, maybe I need to move to a whole other country or something, right? And they can't take it with them. They will sell this bike and the next person will be so excited to own it and take care of it. And for generations, this bike will keep, it will still be alive, and it's still going to probably be alive longer than some people. I think the thing to note is just that it's been proven with vehicles like this that mopeds today, gas powered ones, while there aren't very many left, they have they have consistently been repaired and rebuilt and customized for over 60 years now. And so when I was designing this bike, I had that in mind. I wanted this bike to last for generations and people to pass it down and, just cherish it and take care of it and customize it and build it to their liking. So um that was a big thing behind the design of it. And
Yeah.
so it's meant to last. It's built to last for a very long time.
Look, I love this, and we've covered a lot of ground so far. I want to dive into some of the more business aspect of things for those who are listening, who are more interested in those things, because we've covered a lot of great ground on you and ONYX, and now there are some realities that sort of I imagine you face on a regular, everyday basis. You and your team. I'm sure you have your chosen few there that are holding it down for you. We're talking logistics, like you don't just make bikes. It doesn't just happen by snap of a
Right.
finger. I'm sure there have been some incredible hurdles you've had to overcome, like finding parts and manufacturers to work with and warehousing. Why don't you tell me what are some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome logistically to make your dream come true with ONYX?
Yeah. So with ONYX, I've had a couple of businesses before that I've been deeply involved in. So for 10 plus years, from when I was 19, into my 20s, I was part of a skateboard company that we built from the ground up. So I learned a lot of how to build a product and how to get parts and when to get parts because it's a seasonal product, and learning all the ins and outs of that. Even though I was more on the creative side, I was deeply because as a couple people, we started it from the ground up, and then it built to this worldwide brand. It was a downhill skateboard, but then later on, as I kind of moved on into really focusing in on industrial design, I had a couple projects. One of them was a furniture project, and that also again sort of gave me the groundwork of how to start a bigger company. And when I did start ONYX, um, I was able to. It was kind of a long story, but I was able to shut down the skateboard company because it wasn't electric, and the future was going electric, and the sales were kind of dying after 20 years of the skateboard company. So I was able to shut that down, take over the warehouse, and essentially already have my home base to start the company, and then utilize the same idea, which we were doing a lot of in-house assembly to really. It was more of just taking the same idea of how we were operating the skateboard company. So I fast tracked that idea, had the warehouse, and I had some connections in overseas for parts and things like that. But I was getting parts from all over the world, not just China. Like I was getting forks from Italy and brakes from Australia. It was
Wow.
it was crazy, right? But I was able to bring it all together because I had done it in the past, and then sort of make it all happen, and then be able to put the bikes together in the U.S. And that that was it was great. It was definitely very very challenging to do that. So we've since streamlined that to make it a lot easier for everyone. But in the beginning, that was kind of what I knew. So I was able to do that, do what I knew. But then, with hiring other people, you kind of learn other things and how to, optimize. Right.
No, and I really appreciate you diving into that because you didn't have to share it. That's a gem to know. Like, hey, look, some of these things carry over, and I'm curious because, especially for entrepreneurs who are listening, regardless of the vertical you're in, sometimes you turn to a state of mind or a rule of thumb that you've developed as an instinct over the years through to
Mhm.
trial and error. What's your go to when you're at a loss for like how am I gonna make this decision? Because in every business there's a moment where you have to make a critical decision or an important decision, whether it's letting a team member go, deciding what to invest in,
Mhm.
to level things up or cut things back. Do you have a sort of rubric that you use at this point, like something instinctual that you do as an entrepreneur to help you make those hard decisions?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, instincts play a big part for me in making decisions that are, tough decisions or decisions that are big for the company. But in general, since my training and as a designer, I actually, I mean, I don't have to write this down most of the time or anything, but I have a process, a design process, and it's mainly analyzing as many scenarios as I can think of and coming to different solutions and figuring out which one is likely the best one to solve for the issue at hand or the what I'm trying to solve for. So I try to branch out. It's kind of in design, you sort of branch out to all the options, and then you come back and you come up and you filter it down to maybe a few options, and then you branch those out, right? And I can do that without really having to make like a slide
Right,
presentation
it's
right there.
instinct. Yeah.
Yeah, if I need to explain it to someone else, I'll go and do that extra mile and make a whole presentation, right, of how we're gonna do this and how we're gonna figure this out. But in general, it's really actually I just need to spend some time to myself driving around or riding around and, you know, digest it in my head. I actually think the biggest thing for me personally is getting some free time to be able to think and process. If you're just running a mile a minute and you're constantly always doing something and you don't have that free time, I think that actually can be hurtful for a business. So generally, I try to get some free time to
Get
to
lost,
so,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
get lost in, yeah, exactly.
I really appreciate you diving into the idea of how you've leveraged your design experience and overlaid that as a sort of nav
Mhm.
for entrepreneurship. If there was one book on design or one person that any entrepreneur would benefit from studying or reading or learning from, what would that be? Because you're the perfect person to ask that.
Yeah, so in general, I think just if you look up design process, right? And in general, the design process actually uh is pretty similar in all regards, right? You'll see the design process work for any type of designer, be it an interior designer, graphic designer, or somewhat like product designer like myself. Um, that design process is fairly similar. It might be a little bit different, but you can just look that up online, right? And you'll see the process, and you can actually see that process will work for business. And I mean, that was from my experience and also just school. The instructors would show us that the design process works not only just for design, but you can sort of apply the same method and the way you stage things out. So you essentially kind of have this research and then discovery and then refinement and then you have your kind of final stage where you're going into, let's say, first design, like going into production, but that final stage could be something else, right? So you're kind of breaking it up into a couple different stages, and in my opinion, that works great for a lot of things, almost everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I really appreciate you digging into your bag and sharing that because you didn't have to. Again, these are value adds that I just wanted to showcase because
Mm,
you brought it up how you carried that over into what you were
right.
doing. So now I want to roll out the red carpet for you as we begin to close things out. What are you looking forward to the most in 2025? And what's your call to action to those who are listening?
Well, so what am I looking for in the most for 2025?
Yeah.
Um, right now, I really want to see, as many people get on our bikes and smiles and everyone enjoying the product, because it is honestly this product that I think a lot of people don't really know about or have heard about it. I think about it all the time when I come into work, and I just think how there's there's so many people in this world, and there's so many people in this country, and getting that message out that this is honestly so much better than driving your car to work. It's so much more fun and exhilarating, and it's the thing that I actually look forward to every day. And I know that when people do discover this product and they do actually ride it around and they enjoy it, uh, they come back with just like, I wish I knew about this sooner, because being electric makes it opens up a lot of opportunities for you where you couldn't really do that with a gas vehicle. And um, like just being able to bring it into an office space, right? When you're commuting, um, you can bring it into an elevator and nobody will say anything, right? Whereas obviously you can't do that with a gas
Right.
vehicle.
No fumes. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And so I think just the idea of making sure that we get our message out there, and it's clear, and people start to understand our brand, and that we're this sort of alternative to vehicle, to like the traditional vehicle, and providing something that I think will make people happier, right? Because now, I mean, honestly, when you drive in a car, like especially in LA, everyone's angry, right? They're driving around so crazy, and I and you get on a bike, right? And you can actually just enjoy that ride and that time that you have on your way to work, and maybe even explore a little bit before you get to work, or you know go off the beaten path. I think that's things that people don't really think about because they're so just like in this repetitive cycle all the time. Yeah.
No, I dig it, man. And anything that helps me not look for parking in Los Angeles is totally
Oh,
welcome in my book.
right.
Especially in Koreatown. Every time I go visit my family there, I'm like, oh, I usually circle the block a few times. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out. So you're located in downtown Los Angeles, is that correct?
We're in Frogtown, LA, right on
Oh
the
yeah,
bike.
Frogtown, yeah.
Yeah, right next to Loch Cologne. So
I used to
you
live in
know,
Highland Park. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people come here, to get a coffee, check out our bikes. You can do test rides. You can go up and you can go out into LA near the Dodger Stadium,
Yeah.
and just see some of the beautiful
Oh,
views
that's
on a
the
test
perfect
ride.
place to ride one of
It,
those.
yeah, I mean it's great for anyone interested in these vehicles to come out, go on a fun little test ride,
They can do
and
test rides? All right.
yeah, yeah. So we do test rides. It's totally free. You can check it out. So it's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know. There's this little hidden gem here right next to the coffee shop where you can check out one of our bikes, and have the time of your life, in my opinion. A lot of people come back and are just like, oh my god, they're so blown away. Just because it open like I was saying earlier, it opens up a whole new perspective of Los Angeles for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a different way to live in Los Angeles, and I think it's an
Right.
exciting way in the future, if anything. Listen, Tim, you've been wonderful. You've been very generous with your time, energy, experience, and story. If there's anything else you want to say to the listener while you have them, go for it. Otherwise, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I hope that everyone can check out onyxmotors.com, and check out our check out our bikes. And if you're in LA, come for take a test ride, and we'll show you around. It's going to be it will be a blast. It's definitely something that a lot of people, I think, would be interested in checking out. And you know we're here from Wednesday till Sunday. So we're open on the weekends for test rides. I think it's a great date for couples too. So if you got someone you want to take with you, you guys can go out and go explore on the bikes and get a coffee.
It's a perfect chance to look cool and to be smooth.
Right. Yeah.
All right, right on. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.